Hello, and welcome to Unsheathed with your hosts, Kyle Gold and Cam Hirosaki. We hope that you enjoy the program. Please stick around afterwards. There'll be cake and blowjobs.
Hi, welcome to Unsheathed number 30. We are at a nice round number here.
If we were in Roman numerals, this would be episode XXX.
Ooh. Sadly, we're not in Roman numerals, and I don't believe there's going to be anything particularly XXX about this episode. Unless pants come off, but you never know when that might happen.
Or they might already be off.
We're in Schrodinger's podcast with Heisenberg's pants or something.
Yeah, the Heisenberg uncertainty pants.
Anyway, I'm Kyle, trying not to cough, Gold.
And I am Cam Hirosaki, enjoying a delicious glass of Riesling Chateau Saint Michel. It's very nice.
Very nice. We are back in our mountain bunker up in the wilds of Northern California. But we wanted to first give a big thank you to Furry Fiesta. We had an absolutely fabulous time down in Dallas.
We absolutely did.
And we loved the audience down there. They were great.
They were?
They
put up with a lot of jibba-jabba from us.
They did, and we did, as I'm fond of mentioning, make a corgi blush.
I'm about halfway through listening to that episode, actually. I was listening to it on my drive down, and some of what transpires was actually making me laugh out loud to myself in the car. So
that's cool. It was actually, I think, Zia McCorgy actually said he was listening to it again, and he found himself blushing all over again, which is very amusing to me.
You don't have to do it hard and fast. You might want to just take it slow and deliberate and enjoy it.
Let's not start quoting our own podcast on later episodes of the podcast.
Best of.
But also a big thank you to Fuzzwolf, who sat through the whole thing with us and provided some interesting information on Fur Planet and publishing in general, and answered some of our writing questions also.
Yeah.
He's not only a publisher, but he's also a famous podcaster and a writer, so it's like three wolves in one.
Yeah. Ooh. I'm just trying to think of how you would arrange that. A lot of possibilities.
Well, depends on how big the muzzle is.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Fit two in there, and then... yeah. Speaking of which, my book Bridges debuted at Furry Fiesta, and I was quite pleased that the challenge that I posed to my readership on LiveJournal was picked up and met. I had said that I was challenging them to make Fuzzwolf reorder, because he told me he had ordered enough for both Furry Fiesta and FWA, and so I said, I bet you didn't. And he came out to me Saturday early afternoon and said, so I just reordered, which means that y'all out there get another story from Bridges, or from that world and those characters, and I'm going to wait another little while for the people to get their mail order copies and read them, and then I'll post a little poll on LJ to have people decide which characters they want to see. So if you don't follow my LiveJournal, kylegold.livejournal.com, that's where it's going to be.
And congratulations, furries, for buying through what was nominally supposed to be 2 months' worth of books in a day and a half.
Yes, and kudos, and thank you to all of you.
Yeah.
By the way, it was very cool. Fur Planet, I believe, did quite well at the convention, so we were very pleased to hear that. I always like to hear when that furries are reading. I mean, I like it when they read my stuff or your stuff, but honestly, the more people read, the more they want to read, and that's just great for everyone, and so that's what we try to encourage.
I just realized I don't actually have a copy of Bridges.
Really? Did you not buy one?
I forgot to pick it up because I'd already read it, and I made it through the weekend. I forgot to get one.
I remember thinking that I was going to sign yours, and
because I was trying to think, I was thinking, I was trying to remember what you had signed in my copy, and I'm like, I don't think you did, because I don't think I have one.
No, I definitely did not sign a copy.
I'll rectify that. You know I will.
I know you're good for it. You're a good otter that way.
Yes, I am. You know what I'm good for. You write stories about it.
I do.
And vice versa.
And vice versa. But we got a few letters. We're trying to catch up on our email because you guys keep emailing us and then we don't read your letters for like 2 months. So we're going to try to get a little better about that.
Luckily, our string of live shows is going to be going on hiatus for about half a year plus.
Yeah, about that. We're not going to be in the same place for at the same convention for maybe September, maybe.
I'm thinking it's September.
Yeah.
That's actually probably the next con I'm going to get to.
We'll see if Rain First manages to. Well, actually, they've been great. So hopefully they'll let us do another live show again.
They are great, and I like Seattle.
Yes, and so
I get my Rain City punch,
and
we know where that leads.
And meet Texan dingoes.
I'm just sort of drifting off now.
There. Read our first letter, why don't you?
Okay. I've thought long and hard on your call for tasteful euphemisms for sucking on a cherry popsicle, and I regret I can't think of a more G-rated way to talk about tying a knot with your tongue. I hope somebody else can provide you with a way to talk about hot dog sampling more subtly. You might just have to call a mouth hug what it is, an oral pole dance. Sincerely, Kaz, sword-swallowing Semensis. Because he's the Ethiopian wolf.
I didn't know he was an Ethiopian wolf.
Yeah. Oh, I knew, but I guess you didn't.
I did not.
A lot of people don't specifically call that out, I guess. It's like
interesting.
Like my
and he lives in Canada.
Well, I don't live in a river.
No, but you live near a river. At least you live near a bay.
That's true. Well, that would imply... it's like what I was saying many episodes ago about my rant about people who say they're otters and then they don't specify what kind. People still can decide what type of wolf they are. And, Ethiopian wolf.
I didn't say there was anything wrong with it. I just said I wasn't aware. And I'm amused that an Ethiopian wolf lives in Canada, but then,
Well, I mean, we get fennecs who live in Texas, too.
That's a good point, but at least Texas is kind of a desert climate. It sort of fits the fennec.
That's true. Well, I know Arctic foxes who live in San Jose and Nevada.
Both places?
Yeah.
Not the same Arctic fox.
No. Okay. I said Arctic foxes, plural.
Well, we appreciate Kaz's contribution to our euphemism for oral sex lexicon.
He is our resident oral sex expert, at least who isn't
Enthusiast.
Enthusiast.
Fellatio fan was one of his, I think, or... we need to compile all of them and just read them off in one episode at some point. We have all of his emails.
We can have them on an imprint on a special bonus DVD, like the label. We'll just have all of his.
Or we'll have Kit cut them all together, like Kaz, blowjob enthusiast, blowjob connoisseur, blowjob impresionario, impresario. That's I think what I was trying to say.
Or get your degree. And I'm just thinking how many of our listeners are too young to know what that means.
Or we do the little scroll up the screen featuring all these great hits.
We'll only read the ones that have been highlighted in yellow and the rest will be in white.
Exactly. Welcome to Grey Muzzle Cast.
Yeah, I know. Wow.
Well, thank you, Kaz. Next letter. Good morning, Unsheathers, and Happy New Year. I've just returned from a great holidays, and I hope yours were collectively great as well. I've recently been reading the memoirs and collected works of an old favorite writer of mine, Kurt Vonnegut. Amongst other great ideas and tricks of the trade, though, I found a quote that startled me. Here is a lesson in creative writing. First rule, do not use semicolons. They are transvestite hermaphrodites representing absolutely nothing. All they do is show you've been to college. And Conroe wonders, are they really that dangerous? Is there some truth to this rather bold statement, or is he simply, as he commonly was, off his tits? I love that expression, by the way.
Yes, it's good to know that we have people in the UK.
Gay fox, am I permanently off my tits?
Yes, I think you are.
Okay. I think both you and I love semicolons.
Yeah.
And I think we perhaps love them a little bit too much sometimes, so we just kind of have to watch out for that.
Yeah, all things in moderation. I'll also disagree with the note. I know plenty of people who have been to college who cannot use semicolons to save their lives.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
But I think to actually disprove his statement, you would need to know someone who has not been to college who can use a semicolon. Sorry.
I'd ask for something from our readership,
Fox.
but we risk skewing a bit too young if we start trying to pull from that pool.
Well, yeah. I think probably what Vonnegut was getting at was that a semicolon is sort of a lazy way to join sentences together.
Yeah.
And you really shouldn't need to do that. And in fact, you can get by without using semicolons at all. Where they're useful and convenient is when you want to join two sentences together that are related, where one implies an action that is carried out or not carried out by the next sentence.
Right.
And you want it to flow well. So it's all a question of pacing.
Yeah, and paragraph structure. And I think where you get into trouble is like anything, if you overdo it. I remember this was a while back on the late departed Yif Star. There was this one story that had been getting a bunch of good reviews, and I went to go read it. And I'm not going to name names, but this was one of those stories where like every paragraph had about 2 sentences on average that had semicolons in them. And I got about a page into this story, and I was like, "Oh, get over yourself." This was definitely a case of an instance of you could tell the writer was in love with his own writing.
Yeah, I'm just trying to.
And it wasn't
paste
that
it all
it wasn't
together.
that good a story either.
Yeah, that's when you want to tell them DTMFA. So yeah, that's I don't. I think probably the first rule of writing is ignore any rules of writing that don't make you a better writer.
Yeah.
There was an article in the UK paper The Guardian recently, which our UK friend Condrell might have seen, which quoted the Elmore Leonard's 10 rules of writing, which are pretty good rules, and then asked a bunch of other writers to list their 10. Foosball actually pointed us to that one.
Oh, okay.
And there were some good ones in there, and it was amusing because a lot of the writers kind of contradicted each other. Like the one writer said, all you need to write is paper and a thesaurus and a life experience or something. And the other writer said, absolutely do not use a thesaurus, because if you can't use the words that come easily to you, then you're stretching and you're going to use the wrong words.
Yeah.
So,
For reference,
have a thesaurus, don't have a thesaurus.
For reference, I use a thesaurus when I know there's a word I'm looking for and I can't think of it.
I use a thesaurus maybe like 2-3 times a year, and that's mostly when I think, like I want something to be the color green, but I want to know if there's a synonym for the color green that implies malevolence, because I know, like, if you've ever read the book that comes to mind for whatever reason is the Thomas Covenant series. Okay. He makes green evil. And like things that are green are sickly, and I couldn't remember any of the adjectives he used to make green. Like, is it viridian?
Yeah,
or
that would be a good one.
But he always puts kind of adjectives behind it, like sickly emerald, or and now I still can't remember any of them. I ended up not using anything. So
I'm thinking now, trying to think if any of our listeners have green personas.
One of them does. The Mike McCoy, I believe, is a green. I know his icon's green. I'm blanking on whether he's a dragon or. I think he's a dragon.
Okay.
He'll no doubt write in. But so there you go. We'll I will try to remember to post the link to that article in the notes of the show.
Okay. But yeah, so short version, yes, you can use semicolons. And our next email here. I'm totally the one guy who doesn't write but does tune in a half hour a week just to listen to you yap back and forth otherwise.
Yay.
And you're not just the one guy. There's more than one of you. But I am a developing artist, and a lot of what you guys talk about really inspires me to use my mind's eye in my drawing, to be able to have something in my head and be able to put it down on paper. Just so you know, by the way, that sentence had a semicolon in it. And it had a logical flow to it. Even if it is in other means. I just like to tune in also and be able to laugh at your guys' bantering and funny jokes, as well as to your insight on many things when it comes to learning and thinking creatively. I can say that you guys have helped a lot in my artistic field, so thank you. It's a fun time, and I always enjoy listening to your guys' podcast. Thanks again, Kapoku.
Well, thank you, Kapoku.
Yeah, it's good to know that our advice is sort of broadly helpful. I mean, I know that we've mentioned before that, we started as this, we're nominally an erotic writing podcast, but the stuff we talk about is just sort of applicable to writing in general. And to hear that our advice is useful to creativity in general is actually even better.
That is very cool. And Kapoku actually brought up another usage of semicolon that we didn't discuss after the last letter, which is for a winky smiley face.
Yes, there are those too. You can absolutely use them in that.
And in fact, I think you need to. Well, no, there is the kind of the cat face where you have the tilde and then the circumflex and the
Underscore
or
Yeah.
something. Yeah, I don't know. Those always seem too complicated.
Semicolon 3 for your winking otter.
Oh, is that what it is? It always makes me think it's a cat.
It could be either, I think. It's definitely not a canid muzzle. Canid muzzles are too pokey.
So is a combination of an otter and a cat a cotter or a catter?
Welcome back, Cotter. Sorry.
You should be.
I am hanging
Again,
my head in
alienating half
shame.
our listener base who couldn't even sing the theme song.
Yeah, like once again, welcome to Gray Muzzle Cast.
Yeah, really. Okay, moving on. Thank you, Kapoku. Well, that's always great to hear. Hi, I'm Kalte Bild.
Sounds Scandinavian.
Yeah, I'm going to say that. Anyway, Kalte asks, my question is, have you ever read the books The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger and or The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne? And if so, what is your opinion on them? And any other classics, such as Animal Farm, Brave New World, etc. This is kind of timely. I believe he sent it actually before Salinger died, but J.D. Salinger died recently.
Yeah, just a couple weeks ago.
And Nathaniel Hawthorne, of course, died probably about a century ago.
Yeah.
So, I have never actually read Catcher in the Rye.
Really?
Really? And the last time I read The Scarlet Letter, I was a young cub in high school.
Yeah, I was in junior year of high school. And to say that I read it would be giving myself too much credit. I kind of looked at it.
I read it and I actually remember a lot of the analysis we did of it.
Oh, I got a 92 on my analysis of it.
Well, yeah, you didn't have to
Yeah.
actually read the book. But I remember the themes and the imagery in the story being very striking and very interesting to me.
Yeah.
Although the text itself was kind of tedious, and I was glad that I had somebody to explain it to me.
Yeah, I always sort of felt that about anything like pre-20th century sort of.
Yeah.
And actually really pre-1950 in a way. Especially when I was younger, just trying to get through the language. I mean, it's modern English, but it's not how our brains process modern English.
Though I will say that Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn are amazing.
Oh yeah, but Twain was a genius too. So.
Yes, he was. And Animal Farm is it's really well done, but it's almost too allegorical for me. It's not a real story.
I much prefer 1984.
Wow.
To Animal Farm. I thought that the exploration of themes in 1984 was actually really riveting.
It probably was, although I think I've not read that again since high school, and my last memory of 1984 was the horrible, horrible movie.
Oh, yeah. No, the movie's terrible.
But I did love a lot of what he did with language in that book.
Yeah, and I remember when we were in school and people were like, oh, just like when they get to the part with Goldstein's book, just skip that because it's really boring. And I was like, oh my god, like you're completely missing the point of the story they're telling if you... But I've never finished Brave New World. I've read like the first third of it, but I never finished it. And it was just because I got busy.
I read it, but I don't recall a lot of it. I recall some of the early stuff, and I recall a lot of the themes of it more than I recall the actual text.
Yeah.
But I will say, so as not to sound completely uneducated and illiterate, Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad is probably my favorite classic book. He does amazing things with description and language and character, and he has sentences and paragraphs sentences that go on for paragraphs and paragraphs that go on for pages, and you read through it, and they're amazing. And you look at that and you say, holy crap, if I were to do that, I would strangle myself.
You are one of several people who has told me that I need to read that, and I actually haven't.
Oh, I may send you home tonight with a copy. I believe we have it here. What about you, if you had to pick one classic work of literature?
You know, I'm actually, and I'm not doing this to come out of left field and be pretentious,
No
but
Shakespeare.
No.
Everyone should read Shakespeare.
No, I'm actually going to say that one of my favorite sort of modern classic books, it's actually originally in Japanese. It's called Kokoro by Natsume Soseki. It's early 20th century. It was written in like 1914 or something. It's Meiji Restoration era novel. You can read it in English. There's a very good English translation that's readily available.
Well, we should trade classics then, because you haven't read mine and I haven't read yours. So
okay, yeah, I will. I have a copy of it in my bookshelf. I can get it to you.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, if you read this book and sort of the themes it gets into, a lot of my writing will suddenly make a lot of sense in retrospect. It's one of those. It's one of the few books that I was assigned to read as part of a class that I went back to reread willingly, like on my own after the fact, because I actually liked it so much.
Oh, cool. And Kit has reminded me that I'm on a crusade to read Marcel Proust's In Search of Lost Time, which is his immense 7-volume epic thing. I read the first volume a couple years ago, and he does just some wonderful things with language and people and events, and I think I read you little parts of them.
You read me some snippets, and the language really is lovely.
So I have the second book, and I'm fixing to get through that one at some point this year.
The Remains of the Day is probably too new to be a classic, isn't it?
Yeah, probably.
Could you call it a modern classic?
Oh, yeah, you could.
You should read The Remains of the Day. You can probably...
Yes. And we've both read that one.
You can probably read that in like 2 summer afternoons.
Yep.
It's not a long book, but it's not a fast read either.
No, and you should take your time over it, because he does some really wonderful things also.
Yeah. And again, don't just cheat and watch the movie. We'll know.
Yes. Although you should watch the movie, because, Christopher Reeve.
Yeah.
All right, why don't you go on?
Okay. Hey guys, I'm not much of a writer, even though I do listen to your podcast. I'm more into doing comic books. That being said, I was wondering if any of you have ever written a comic book. Also, how would you change the way you write, if at all, if you knew the story you're writing was going to be presented in comic form? From Matt Stewart.
Yeah, that's probably not his furry name, but he didn't include his furry name, and the Gmail address did not provide a clue to it, so...
Well, there you go, Matt.
I have actually written... Have I written a comic book? I've written one that hasn't come out yet. The artist got real busy, and we're hoping to get it out next year, maybe. But I haven't written the script. I've just written sort of the high level to let him block out the pages. But I think we talked about this in a previous podcast, too.
Yeah, comic writing is sort of its own form of...
Though, to be fair, we probably talked about it after he sent the email.
Right.
So, I would say there's not too much more I'd add to that. I thought his... how would you change the way that you write? I would put more emphasis on description.
Yeah.
So that the artist knows what they're drawing.
Yeah. Also, work closely with the artist to determine things like pacing.
Right.
Because that's something that, when you're just writing narrative prose, you can control on sort of your own level as suit your needs. When you have to, block out pages and, have a visual medium, you have different concerns that you need to keep in mind.
Right. And they pace them kind of by page.
Yeah.
So you want to end each page on a beat. Ideally, you want the pages to be like little chapters. And I think just for a good overview, where I get most of my comic book sensibilities is from Scott McCloud. He wrote Understanding Comics, Reinventing Comics. There's a new one out now, I think, which I can't remember what the title is. But he really understands the form and is really good with giving you pointers, not just how to do a comic book well, but how to really stretch the boundaries.
To make the most of what you're working with.
Right. Since we were talking about classics before, some of our favorite comic writers, Alan Moore.
Oh, yeah.
Neil Gaiman's done some good stuff, of course.
Yes, absolutely.
Grant Morrison is one of my favorites. And I don't know how much you've read him, but I think you'd like him quite a bit.
I've read a little bit of stuff. I mean, comics is one of those things where I'm more than a dabbler, but I'm not like a hardcore comics reader either.
Right.
I mean, I've read a lot of the big classic stuff, like Watchmen, and then sort of more mainstream stuff, like the Dark Phoenix saga. I've read a lot of the early runs of like early comics. And
Bill Willingham, who's doing Fables now, is another one of our current favorites. And I think actually, Kit is reaching out with
his mind
paws and massaging my head. Alan Moore actually also has a how-to book out, how to write comics. Yeah,
I don't think I knew that.
Yep, and he's one that you could do worse than learn from.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Anything else on that one?
No, I mean, I think that you have more direct experience with the medium than I do, and you kind of covered the points that I thought were relevant.
Speaking of which, Sofa Wolf actually is going to be up at the Emerald City Comic Convention in 2 weeks, the weekend of March 13th and 14th in Seattle.
Yep.
You'll be able to buy my books, including X with the story by Kame Hirosaki in it, and the issue of Heat with Kame Hirosaki in it.
Yay. I'm going to be in Seattle again in spirit.
Yes. It's a very ottery kind of town.
I'll have somebody drink a Rain City Punch for me.
Kit Silver is telling me legends, and I'm not sure what that means, but... Oh, Kit has written a comic book.
Really?
He has. It was called Legends.
I'm going to have to delve into this, and not just with my mind paws. It might involve the rest of that bottle of wine I haven't drunk yet.
With your real paws. All right. So we have an email here from Dusk, who is I think this is the same Dusk that we met over up at Camp Farrell, but I'm not certain. Anyway, whoever it is, Dusk writes, before I say anything, please ignore any bad grammar. Emails aren't too merciful. That would be a good place for a semicolon. I've listened to all the episodes except episode 25, which is currently uploaded on my iTunes, and in all honesty, I've been thoroughly surprised and pleased by your podcast as a whole. It's entertaining, and I hope you continue it for a long time, because I've picked up a lot of great tips and tricks from both of you. If I wasn't at all nervous, I'd probably do better at wording the email. I probably sound like a psycho at this point. Well, I've been writing fan fiction for a while, and while it isn't the most fulfilling form of writing, it does pass the time and give me a way to vent into my hobby. Obviously, if I'm doing furry work, a big one for me would be, and is, Star Fox. I have started an original non-furry work, and I have a few pieces that are buried under the porch or in the closet where no one will ever find them. This leads me to my two questions, due to the biggest problems of what shows up in my writing. I've listened to your previous episodes and have gotten bits and pieces of the questions through there, but I want a straight answer so I know what to work on. Oh, honey, if you want a straight answer, this is the wrong podcast. Is there any special method that you use to help distinguish individual characters from each other or yourself other than a bio? And when is romance and fluff too much? I hope you get around to these. I'm sure you get a lot of emails. It'd surely explain the 3-month delay you had on the one response. Varying Fursona Dusk. So, well, second one first, I think that's easy. But romance and fluff, I think he means explicit sexual activity.
Or I interpreted it to mean like lovey-dovey scenes of people fawning over each other and just sort of being cute on the page so that you can daw at them.
Maybe.
Furries like that sort of shit.
That's true. In either case, I would say it's too much when it stalls the plot.
Yeah.
When you've been going on for pages and all they're doing is hugging and kissing and whatnot.
Yeah. It'll start to feel self-indulgent when it gets there.
Yeah, I agree. Probably, I would say you can't. You should err on the side of cutting back. Like, don't say, well, I'm not sure if I should add this extra paragraph, so I'll throw it in just to be safe. Take it out just to be safe.
You move on to the next scene first. No, you move on to the next scene first.
Oh my god. No, you.
Okay, on 3. I almost want to write that now.
You totally should.
I really shouldn't.
That would be this whole meta story about two characters falling in love, but knowing that they're in a story, and knowing that they're in a Kame Hirosaki story, so they're like, oh, one of us is going to get hurt in the next scene. No, you move on to the next scene first. No, you.
I'll do a reverse fake out.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Slippery like an otter.
Yes. I can't help it.
You could help it if you washed with bleach.
No.
So as far as characters, the way really that you want to make your characters stand out is you have to have a sense of who they are.
Yeah.
Which sounds kind of disingenuous because you're like, well, this is Star Fox. I'll take the Star Fox example, even though I don't really know that much about him. But, Star Fox is the captain. He's the pilot. He's the cocky one. So he's going to respond in a situation differently than, your other characters who are, I don't know the names of any of the other ones.
Peppy,
Slippy,
Falco,
right.
Crystal. Everyone with Crystal.
Slippy, who's going to go out with Gabe behind the barn and...
Gabe, I'm in real trouble, Gabe. I kiss another boy. Does that make me gay?
Read Penny Arcade for the rest. It was about 4 years old, I think, but it's still funny.
It
still
still
cracks
is.
me up. So, just from knowing who the characters are, they're going to respond differently and they're going to be introduced differently.
Yeah.
But the other thing you want to keep in mind is what do they want in the context of the story? Because everybody wants something. Even your side characters want something. And that is all going to be behind most of what they do through the course of the story. They're not going to always be consciously like, I want a glass of water. But there's some goal that they're reaching for in the story.
Yeah, I mean, you hear the phrase a lot, like getting inside a character's head. And while that might sound trite, it really is true. It's like, if you can put yourself, imagine being in this character's, headspace. And be like, what would they be thinking at this moment? How would they react versus think of that more than how should I have them react? What should I have them say? Sort of try to eliminate the middleman of yourself as the writer, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and if you have to, you can write a bio. There's some exercises to developing characters that ask a bunch of questions about their past.
Yeah.
Where did they grow up? Did they get bullied in high school, or were they a bully in high school? Did they play athletics? Did they play in band? Were they one of the geeks? Were they teacher's pet? Were they slacker student? What's their favorite color? What's their favorite food to eat? And if you sort of go through and answer all those questions, that can be kind of a fun exercise, like rolling up a character in D&D, which for a little while I kind of thought, rolling up a character is the fun part, and I've just, I like creating a new character.
I know a lot of people for whom that's their favorite part of gaming.
Yeah, and because you're inventing somebody, and I know people who in gaming sort of put a whole lot of personality into their characters.
Oh, yeah.
And with me, it was just kind of like, well, here's this person, and it's more or less me if I was a half elf, half sorcerer, half thief, half something.
Wow. Yeah, I'm not going to reveal the depths of my D&D geekitude by trying to correct all the mistakes you just made there, so I'm going to let it slide. The fan base must not know.
Yeah, you think I'm joking, but
No, I don't.
the only thing that I said that was not accurate was sorcerer. But anyway,
Well, they didn't have sorcerers until third ed, really, right? Unless you
no, it was illusionist actually, which is
Were you a gnome? No, you were a half elf. You just
no,
said
it's half elf.
Gnomes are better at being illusionists, though, with their favorite
Yes,
class.
I know. But gnomes also get mercilessly made fun of by PCs and NPCs alike.
Which is why they took them out of third ed. Like, gnome isn't a base character race.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
My favorite story about third edition is that one of my friends was in the bookstore overhearing a conversation between a couple of kids, and third edition had just come out, which dates me. But the one kid was saying to the other one, it's like, "Oh my God, the third edition monster manual. Do you know what this means?" And he was all prepared to be like, "Huh, pff, kids." And the other kid was like, "What?" The other kid said, "Nothing at all." And he was like, "Wow, those kids are kind of cool," which was very amusing. But anyway, if you don't have a gaming system close at hand to roll up your characters with, do try to give them some definition when you introduce them in the story. And this is leading up to I think one of our very first listener exercises.
Yes.
When you introduce, I broke the otter.
Yay.
When you introduce them in the story, they should be active.
Yes.
Have them doing something, and that something should tell you something about the character. So, again, if you're introducing Star Fox in a story, he's setting off on a mission. He's firing a gun at somebody. He's blowing up another ship. He's, whatever star captain pilots do. If you introduce, Slippy, he's gonna be fucking some guy behind the barn, I guess.
Like 20 times.
Like 20 times. Oh God! Welcome to In Joke Gray Muzzle Cast. Sorry again.
The point is that even if you're introducing a character that isn't your own creation, that the reader already knows who they are, you should still, for the context of the story, do something that puts them in character so that, bang, the reader's there.
And so what we'd like to ask our listeners to do is write one paragraph that introduces a character within the context of a story, and by the end of the paragraph, we should get a good sense for who that character is, and maybe even what the character wants. And don't, without you having to resort to something like, Star Fox searched the night sky for any trace of the ship he was seeking on his mission. That's kind of, out there. We're talking, sort of get more into the character. So, write in your paragraphs, and we'll read the entries on the air. Kit is looking skeptical. Kit wants there to be conflict.
Yes.
So we introduce your character in a paragraph having a fight with Kit.
You already wrote a story with my mate, you bitch. Sorry. I can't imagine Kit calling me a bitch.
I can.
Whoa, where did my brain just go? I think it went where your brain went. I am going to bury my muzzle in this empty glass of water.
Yes, you put your muzzle somewhere. So write a good paragraph, introduce your character with something active, some kind of conflict. We will read the submissions either next weekend or maybe the weekend after.
Yeah.
And that's I hope that helps with the character stuff. Really, it's it's a question of getting to know your characters as if they were your friends. And if you really like your characters, then you're going to know how they'd act, how they'd react, how they'd talk. The words they use are going to sound a little different, and
Yeah. That sort of stuff will fall naturally.
yeah, I was just going to say that they won't do stuff that doesn't feel natural.
Yeah. And they might surprise you.
They often do.
Yeah.
They might call Cam Hirosaki a bitch.
Yeah.
So that's your alternate. Your characters could be either having a fight with Kit, or they could be calling Cam Hirosaki a bitch.
What? Why are those our choices?
That's it, and those are all the choices.
No.
So, thank you for another episode. I think we're getting kind of late here, so you can listen to us on iTunes, and we do hope you'll rate us there and write positive, happy reviews and not say horrible things about us.
Please don't. Actually, no.
Do not call Cam Hirosaki a bitch on iTunes.
Yeah,
That's not
they'll
good.
get deleted.
That's not kosher. Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's see. What you were going to say something else about that?
No, I was just going to say, I actually just checked the reviews today for the first time in a while, and I was very pleasantly surprised to see the nice things people have to say about us.
People like us, which
Yeah.
is cool. We appreciate that. We're going to try to keep on doing this and try to keep on being entertaining. I know I think we both laughed quite a bit today, and Kit's laughing over there in his tech-savvy wolf corner.
Yeah. He added to the laughter, though.
As we mentioned, he showed us a XKCD bit, which was very amusing. As we mentioned, Sofa Wolf will be up at Emerald City Comic Con in Seattle in 2 weeks, so you can buy your quality furry literature there. On the complete other opposite side of the country, Fur Planet will be at FWA in 3 weeks, which is the weekend of March 20th, I think, and you can buy more quality furry literature there. And as always, send in your questions to unsheathedpodcast@gmail.com. Follow us as Unsheathed on FA, even if I sometimes forget to post that the things have come out. KyleGold.livejournal.com and Kyle Gold on Twitter.
Yeah, and Cam Hirosaki on Twitter, camhirosaki.livejournal.com.
It's all pretty easy. We're easy to find.
I hide in plain sight.
Exactly. Like an otter.
Like it, yes. I don't even know what that means.
Well, thank you all for listening and writing in. We're always happy to get more questions, and we look forward to meeting you guys at hopefully Rainforest in September.
Yeah, we can do our first not inaugural, first annual.
It'll be our
anniversary.
the first time we repeat a show at a convention.
We'll redo it word for word.
Yeah. That means we're going to have to write more stories about each other.
Damn it, you're right.
Anyway, keep on writing. I'm Kyle Gold.
I am submissively humiliated Cam Hirosaki.
His tail is all the way up.
It really is.
And I wish you a very pleasant good night.
And happy writing.